What if I told you the deadliest war on Earth right now isn't being fought by soldiers? No trenches, no front lines, no man-to-man combat.
Somewhere en route now.
Mate, this is what safety looks like. This is what safety used to look like too, until the sky changed everything.
Right now, somewhere in Sudan, a mother is putting her children to sleep. She checks the door. She checks the windows. But there's nothing she can check for what's actually coming, because the thing that's about to kill her family isn't going to walk through that door. It's not going to knock. It's not going to announce itself with the sound of boots or engines. It's already in the air. Silent. Watching. Waiting for a signal from a man in a control room who has never seen her face, never heard her voice, never set foot in her city, and who is about to decide, with the press of a button, that her home is a target. This is not science fiction. This is not a movie. This is Tuesday night in Sudan. And this war, the deadliest war on Earth right now that almost nobody is talking about, has quietly transformed into something the world has never truly seen before. A full-scale civil war fought and decided from the sky. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how this happened, who is really behind it, and why what's happening in Sudan right now might be a warning for every single one of us. The betrayal that started it all. To understand the drones, you first have to understand the betrayal. Two men once stood side by side. General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the head of Sudan's official army, the SAF, and Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, a man everyone calls Hemedti, commander of the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF. Together, they had overthrown a dictator. Together, they had promised the Sudanese people democracy. Together, they had shaken hands in front of cameras and told the world Sudan was moving toward peace. It was a lie. Behind the scenes, both men were building armies loyal only to themselves. Both men wanted total power. And in April 2023, that hidden rivalry exploded into the open, turning the streets of Khartoum, Sudan's capital, a city of millions, into a battlefield overnight. What's chilling is where the RSF actually came from. This wasn't a new militia. This was the rebranded successor to the Janjaweed, the same armed group accused of committing atrocities against civilians in Darfur more than 20 years ago. The same tactics. The same brutality. Just a new uniform and now far more advanced weapons. From rifles to robots. For the first year of the war, it looked like wars have always looked. Soldiers. Checkpoints. Tanks rolling through neighborhoods. Cities changing hands street by street. But somewhere along the way, both sides learned a brutal lesson. Soldiers are expensive, soldiers get tired, and soldiers dying in large numbers turns public opinion against you. Machines don't do any of that. So the drones started arriving. Not a few. Not experimental. A flood. Chinese-manufactured strike drones. Turkish-made combat drones capable of loitering over a target for hours before striking. Suicide drones, built with one single purpose. Fly toward something and explode. Long-range strategic drones capable of hitting targets hundreds of kilometers from any front line, meaning nowhere in the entire country was truly safe anymore. By the middle of 2026, independent conflict monitors were recording record numbers of drone incidents in a single month, dozens of strikes around just one city alone. Analysts studying the war stopped calling it a civil war and started calling it something new. A drone-dominated conflict. The first of its kind in Africa, and one of the first of its kind anywhere in the world. And here's the detail that should genuinely chill you. In at least one documented case, an advanced Turkish-made combat drone flown by one side actually shot down the exact same model of drone flown by the other side. Two identical machines. Built by the same manufacturer. Sold to two enemies. Fighting each other in Sudanese skies while the company that built them profits no matter who wins. The hands behind the trigger. Now here is the part of this story that Sudan's war almost never gets asked. Where are all these weapons actually coming from? Sudan does not manufacture advanced combat drones. Neither the army nor the RSF built these machines. So somebody, somewhere outside Sudan's borders, is arming both sides of this war and quietly getting richer while a country tears itself apart. Researchers and international investigators have repeatedly traced weapons recovered on the battlefield in Darfur back to foreign sources. Gulf nations have faced direct, repeated allegations of arming the RSF, allegations they deny, but which a United Nations Security Council panel has previously called credible. On the other side, the Sudanese army has received backing from other regional powers, along with attempts to acquire fighter jets from international partners. This is what's known as a proxy war. It means Sudan's people are not just dying because of a rivalry between two Sudanese generals. They're dying because their country has become a testing ground, a place where outside powers can fund, supply, and observe modern drone warfare in real combat conditions, without a single one of their own soldiers ever setting foot on Sudanese soil. Sudan did not choose to become that testing ground. It was dragged into it. The night the sky took a family. Let's step away from strategy for a moment. Because behind every drone strike statistic is a name, a face, a family. In North Kordofan, a family gathered in their own home, the place that should have been the safest spot on earth for them. A drone struck that home. 9 members of the same family were killed. Women, children, gone in a single strike, on a single ordinary evening. In another attack, a vehicle carrying displaced families, people who had already lost their homes once and were trying to reach safety, was hit directly. 24 people killed. 8 of them children. Children who had already survived one nightmare, only to be killed while fleeing toward what they thought was safety. And in Abu Shuk, a camp built specifically to shelter people who had nowhere else to go, a single strike killed close to 75 people in one attack. Read those numbers again slowly. These are not soldiers. These are not combatants. These are people who ran from war once already, and the war followed them from the sky. A doctor tracking these attacks put it simply, you cannot hide from a drone strike. There are no walls thick enough. There is no basement deep enough. When the sky decides you are a target, geography stops mattering. The cities that refuse to die. Let's talk about 2 cities that show you exactly what this war has become. First, El Fasher, a city that has lived under siege conditions again and again. The army once broke through a suffocating blockade to reach it. But the RSF didn't need tanks to reimpose that blockade a second time. All they needed was enough drones to make the roads leading in and out of the city too dangerous for anyone to use. No convoy. No aid truck. No ambulance. The siege didn't need soldiers standing at checkpoints anymore. It just needed eyes in the sky and the will to strike anything that moved. Second, El Obeid, the capital of North Kordofan. This city shelters more than 100,000 people who already fled violence elsewhere in Sudan. It sits on the roads connecting Khartoum to Darfur, which makes it one of the single most strategically valuable cities in the entire war. And because of that value, it has been hit again and again, drone strikes hitting military positions, but also residential areas, marketplaces, and the very infrastructure people depend on to survive. This is the new version of siege warfare. You don't need to surround a city with an army anymore. You just need enough drones circling above it to make survival itself feel like a gamble. The mass graves. As the army has retaken territory previously controlled by the RSF, something horrifying keeps being uncovered. Mass graves. In one town, dozens of bodies were discovered in a mass grave more than a month after the area was retaken, evidence of what happened to civilians while the RSF controlled the territory. Similar mass graves have since been uncovered in other regions the army has recaptured. This detail matters because it tells you something bigger than any drone statistic ever could. This war was never only about territory. For some of the people fighting it, this war has become about erasing entire communities. And when the history of this war is finally written in full, the drone strikes may end up being only one chapter in a much darker story. Why this is everyone's problem. Here's why you should care about this even if you have never set foot in Sudan and never plan to. Military researchers studying this war have started describing Sudan as a preview, a live demonstration of what future wars everywhere might look like. Cheap, mass-produced drones purchased from multiple foreign suppliers. Weapons flowing in from countries who publicly deny involvement while privately profiting from the bloodshed. A war where the people making the killing decisions are sitting in comfortable rooms, sometimes in entirely different countries, watching a screen instead of standing on a battlefield. If drone warfare can be perfected here, tested, refined, and proven effective on Sudanese soil, there is no reason to believe it stays here. Sudan is not the exception. Sudan is the rehearsal. And that should terrify every single person watching this video, no matter what country you call home. The silence of the world. Here's what makes this story even more painful. This war has already killed tens of thousands of people. It has displaced millions, one of the largest displacement crises on the entire planet right now. And yet, turn on international news tonight, and you will struggle to find more than a passing mention of it. Because Sudan doesn't have the geopolitical spotlight that other conflicts get. Because the people dying here are, to much of the world, invisible. Because a war fought quietly by drones, in a country most people couldn't point to on a map, doesn't generate the same outrage as a war fought in front of cameras on a European doorstep. But invisible to the world does not mean the suffering is any less real. A child killed by a drone in North Kordofan is no less gone than a child killed anywhere else on Earth. The only difference is whether anyone outside that country ever finds out their name. The close. Sudan's war didn't start with drones. It started with two men who broke a promise to their own people. But it has become something far bigger than a rivalry now, a proving ground for a new kind of warfare, funded by outside powers, fought from the sky, and paid for in the blood of people who never asked to be part of any of this. The war moved from the streets to the skies. And somewhere along the way, the world's attention moved away entirely. If this video is the first time you've truly understood what's happening in Sudan, don't let it be the last time you think about it. Share this. Talk about it. Because forgotten wars don't end faster because we look away. They just get quieter while the dying continues. If you want the next chapter of this story, exactly which countries are supplying these weapons, and the paper trail investigators have uncovered, subscribe now, because that's the video coming next.